Welcome to Ramadan Ready, where we get you prepared for the big month. Dr. Shabir, a big question that people ask, especially people who don't know much about Islam, is what's the point of fasting? I remember when I was going to school, somebody turned to me and said, why would your God do that to you? Why would your God punish you in that way? So I thought it would be really interesting to address the question of what's the point? Why did God prescribe this for us?
Yeah, so everything that God does according to Islamic theology is done for a good reason. And sometimes we may know the reason, sometimes we may not know the reason. With commands from God specifically, and even prohibitions, if something is commanded or prohibited, these are all done with good reasons. So the fasting, we can be assured, as a given, must have been done with, it must be prescribed for us with good reason. And folks, many of you may have heard, especially if you've attended a mosque recently, you will hear the sermonizer quoting a verse from the Quran. That's Surah 2, verse 183 in this context, which says, as you know, Safiyyah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. I've heard it so many times since I was
I even memorized fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may practice self-restraint.
Exactly.
We memorized it.
Yeah, you translated it accurately. And what is most interesting for this present discussion is the last phrase, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may, as you've translated, practice self-restraint. This term can be explained in a variety of ways. We can also say that so that you may become God-conscious. And of course, that comes with restraining your desires, which are, going contrary to the commandments of God and doing the things which will be pleasing to God. So there's a purpose, and the purpose is expressed here. And many passages of the Quran explain purposes behind the actions which are prescribed for us, whether it be prayer or some other, or giving charity and so on. So sticking with fasting for a moment, in two verses later, the 185th verse of the same surah, the second surah of the Quran, says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. God desires for you that you should, God does not desire hardship for you, but He desires ease for you. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And he wishes for you to complete the number of days, and that you should give thanks to God for what He has guided you towards, and that you should glorify God for the fact that He has guided you to this faith, and that you should be thankful to God. So this thankfulness, as you know, gratitude, this is something that is now widely recognized among people, Muslims and non-Muslims, that having this sense of gratitude actually helps you spiritually, mentally, and psychologically as well. So these benefits that come from fasting are there mentioned in the Quran. So it's given to us.
It's interesting that God feels a need to include that, it's not just do this, it's also do this because, right?
And that is a lesson for us as well. Like when we want to talk to our kids and so on, sometimes we just simply say, do this, and because I'm the boss or I'm the parent, you just have to listen and obey. But it's good to offer rationale so that people feel that you are giving good and rational commands. And even God is doing that with us. And what is interesting also is that He's saying that He doesn't desire hardship for you, but rather He desires ease. So one might ask then, well, isn't the fasting difficult? But this verse is explaining to us, folks, that it's not God's desire to make things difficult for us, but maybe this is a difficult exercise that we need to go through for our own spiritual upliftment. And Safiyyah, when we're fasting, naturally we become more spiritually close to God, because there's this thing you know about sensory deprivation, right? Like if somebody is, let's say, deprived of sight, then their hearing may become more acute because they're paying more attention to sounds than the rest of us might have, because the rest of us relying on our eyes, we see things, we don't need to hear them so much, but somebody who's deprived of the sight will accentuate the hearing. Now, it seems to us that in a similar way, when we fast, by depriving the physical body of its usual intake, we are then priming the spiritual body for the intake of good spiritual things and spiritual nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually developed that way. And that's all included in this rationale of how, what it means to fast.
Mm-hmm. Also, like if you can make an analogy, there are a lot of things in our life that are hard, right? That we go through. And sometimes we purposely put ourselves through those hard things in order to get some sort of gain for ourselves, right? For example, exercise, right? Exercise is not fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be fun, but most of the time it's just like a hard slog that you do because you want to lose weight, get fit, right? Somebody training for a marathon, training for the Olympics. It's hard, but they think about the gain that they're going to achieve.
Yes, and this is so widely recognized that there's even, as you know, a saying in English, and folks, you know this as well, no pain, no gain. So, the whole idea you have to burn the midnight oil if you're studying for an exam and so on. You have to...
There's some sacrifice that you need to make.
Exactly. You can't go out and play because you have to work on your studies or whatever the case is.
So Ramadan is kind of like a good training in that sense.
Yeah, in fact, it's a good discipline. And one of the things that, we emphasize is that we have to stay away from sins. And Ramadan helps us to do that because when we know from morning till night that we're fasting for the sake of God, we know that we have to please Him in every way. And it helps people to control their willpower, which is a very important aspect of the human makeup. We have this willpower, but often we do not feel that we are in control. And people may say, okay, I'm dying, I have to eat something. So when the Muslim says, you know what, I feel the same instinct to eat, but I'm going to say mind over matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to eat because I'm fasting, I'm going through this exercise. So when one does that 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a whole month, and then another year, again, repeating the exercise, one gets the sense eventually that, we are masters of our own bodies and our own inclinations. We decide what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, and so on. And these most basic desires of the human body cannot control us. We control them. And if more people can develop this kind of willpower, imagine how different the world would be. Because a lot of people say, sorry, I couldn't help it. I was gambling. I couldn't stop. And then before they know it, they've gambled away their life's savings or, they've caused, hardship for their families and so on. People get into affairs in the office and they say, well, sorry, I couldn't help it. But what do you mean you couldn't help it? You don't have willpower. Well, develop that willpower. And one of the ways of doing it is by this training during the month of Ramadan.
Okay, Dr. Shabir. So the moral of the story, no pain, no gain. We'll leave it at that and we'll see you tomorrow. On behalf of Let the Quran Speak, I want to say thank you. You've helped us become the most widely watched Muslim TV show in Canada. I want to appeal to you to continue to support us. You can visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. We also accept e-transfers to igive@QuranSpeaks.com. And we're now on Patreon, so you can make a monthly contribution. May God bless you and your loved ones today and always.